question for you. How do you count or measure your food? I don't know if you remember, but there are some words that are countable and uncountable, right? So when we have uncountable things, we have to count them in a certain way, or we need to measure them, right? So let's continue talking about food now, right? So in this part, on page 70, we have number 1, that's vocabulary. And now let's not talk about food only. Let's talk about food containers, okay? Food containers are things that we use to measure food, right? Or to count our food when it's uncountable, right? So here in number 1, letter A, we have some pictures. So let's give us some time to match the words and the pictures. So let's number these words, so from 1 to 7. So let's take 3 minutes, okay? So pause the video now, pause the video and take 3 minutes to match the words and the pictures. So now let's check, right? So in number 1, we have a bottle, right? So for a box, we have number 3. That is this one. For next, we have a can. That's number 5 here. Next, we have a carton. That's number 4 here. We used to put orange juice or milk, right? Next, we have a jar. That's number 6. Usually in jars, we have jam, right? Next, we have a package. That's number 2. We usually have cookies, right? Or crackers and other things. And next, we have a bag. That's number 7. And here we have a bag of chips. Okay? So these are the most common food containers. We have many food containers, right? And here we have only 7, but we have many examples, right? But here we have only 7, right? Let's go. Now let's listen to these words so you can repeat, okay, and remember the words, right? Let's go.
4.35. 1. A bottle. 2. A package. 3. A box. 4. A carton. 5. A can. 6. A jar. 7. A bag.
Great. Now that we know these 7 food containers, let's listen to 5 phrases and let's write. Okay, let's listen and write to only 5 phrases. Let's see if you can understand, right, and write. Let's listen, take notes in your notebook now or in your material. Take notes and then we check. Let's listen.
4.36. 1. A bottle of oil. 2.
A bag of oranges.
3. A can of peas. 4.
A box of cereal.
5. A carton of milk.
Okay, now let's listen again, right? If it's too fast for you, you can stop the video, okay, and write. So you can listen, stop, and write. Listen again, stop, and write. Okay, let's listen again so you can write the 5 phrases. Let's go.
4.36. 1. A bottle of oil. 2,
A bag of oranges.
3, a can of peas. 4,
A box of cereal.
5, a carton of milk.
So let's check. Let's see if everything is correct. So number 1 in this listening is a bottle of oil, right? So this is only one thing that we can put in a bottle, right? We have many liquids to put in a bottle. This is just one example. For number 2, we have a bag of oranges, right? And we can use bag for many other kinds of food, especially fruit. In this case here in number 7, we have a bag of potato chips, but we have many options. For number 3, we have a can of peas, right? So I don't know if you remember peas. If you don't, go to your vocabulary, right? But we can use can for many things, right? We have can here in number 5, right? We can also use can for liquids. For number 4, we have a box of cereal, right? So here we have a box. In this case, we have chocolate, but we can have boxes for many things. Usually boxes are made of paper. And for number 5, we have a carton of milk, right? Here in the picture, we have a carton of orange juice, right? So we usually have liquids in cartons, right? So it's also made of paper, but a different kind of paper, right? So let's see if you got everything correct, and let's continue. In letter C, still page 70, we have some phrases. Actually, we have the parts of phrases. We have only the words. We have here some nouns. Let's make phrases with the containers and these words. So, for example, here we have a package of cookies, right? When we have the word cookies and we need to measure cookies, we need to say a package of, right? So, we can say also a box of cookies, for example, right? So, stop the video now and make phrases with all these words here in this box. Okay, let's go. So, let's check. Well, we have here some options you can have, okay? For example, as I said, you can have a package of cookies or a box of cookies, okay? So it's not a problem. You can have a package or a box, so both are correct. For chocolates, you can have a box of chocolates, right? It's the most common way of measuring chocolates, right? So for soda, you can have a bottle or a can of soda, right? Usually we have soda in a bottle or in a can, right? For potato chips, we have a bag, right? We usually have potato chips in a bag, right? The way we find in the supermarkets, right? For juice, we have here, I put here 3 options. You can have a carton of juice, right? A can of juice or a bottle of juice. So one of these 3 options is correct. All these 3 options are correct. So if you write a carton, a can, or a bottle, that's not a problem, right? Next is jam. And usually we have a jar of jam, right? We usually have jam in jars, right? Some people can use in a different way, but usually we find in the supermarket jam in jars, okay? Remember that jars are usually made of glass, okay? Continuing, for water, we have a bottle, okay? We usually have bottles of water, so this is the option I have for you. For rice, you can say a bag of rice or a box of rice, okay? In the supermarket, we usually find bags of rice, but sometimes we can see rice in boxes too, especially specific rice. If it's special rice, we can see in a box too, right? Next is sugar. So you can have a bag of sugar or a box of sugar, okay? The same thing for rice. Sometimes we see sugar in a bag or sugar in a box, right? And next is tuna, right? That's fish. So we usually have a can of tuna or a package of tuna. It depends, right? But anyway, both options are correct, okay? So make sure you have all the options so you can study after, okay? Going on. Still on page 70, we have number 2, grammar, right? Let's talk about quantifiers, right? And the bottom of the page, we have these 2 pictures. The same page, page 70. We have the first part, how much sugar, and we have here many sweet food, many kinds of sweet food, and another question, how much salt, right? And we have here some kinds of food that we usually have salt in them, right? So here in the first, we have these things, and here we have other things, right? So in this class, let's talk about quantifiers. That means using the quantity of food, right? Talking how much or how many things you have, right? So these pictures are in the bottom of the page, right? So you can use how much or how many to ask questions about the quantity of food, okay? So remember that we use how much and how many to ask about the quantity, okay, of something. The quantity of food in general, right? And to talk about the quantity of food, we use mainly these 3 options, okay? We have here only 3 options. We have a lot, that means the quantity is big. When we say a little or not much, that means the quantity is not very big. And we have none, that means 0, okay? So when we have none, that means 0 food, right? So a lot, when you have a big quantity, a little or not much when you have a small quantity, and none when you have 0, okay? So I can ask a question with how much, right? For example, how much soda do you have? And you can say, for example, a lot of soda, a little soda, or not much, or you can say none, that means 0, right? So here we have a small example, right? In your material, you have this example. How much sugar is there in dark chocolate, right? So we want to know the existence of sugar in dark chocolate. So you have to say if there is a lot of sugar, if the quantity is big, or if the quantity is not big. So you can say there is a lot or there is a little, okay? So let's continue, right? So here in letter C, we have this activity, right? You have to complete this activity in letter C with a food from this picture in page 70, right? I also used this text that is in page 109, but it's in your material, okay? It's separated, right? So the text is 9b, sugar and salt, right? So let's take some time, read the text, okay? And complete 1, 2, 3, 4 with the options you see here in the picture, right? But the answers are here in the text. So read the text and complete 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, with one kind of food. So I'll give you some time to do it. Read and complete. Let's go. Let's check. So let's see here in this text how much sugar or salt or other things we have in these kinds of food, right? So here in number 1, we have this sentence. There isn't any salt in olive oil. You can see here in the text, right, that in olive oil, we don't have salt. So there isn't any salt in olive oil. You can see here, right? A bottle of olive oil doesn't have any salt, right? So that means 0. So you can say there isn't any salt, right? So when you say that there is 0, you have to say any, right? You have to use any, but remember that any is used if only for negatives and interrogatives, okay? So remember that. In number 2, we have there is a little sugar in. So here we have dark chocolate, right? It's here in the text, right? A small bar of dark chocolate has approximately 7 grams of sugar. So that's only a little. That is a small quantity. It's not a big quantity, okay? So only 7 grams of sugar. So that's okay. It's a little, right? And number 3, let's see. There is not much salt in. What's the food with not much salt? That is potato chips, right? Here you say a small bag of potato chips has approximately 0.15 gram of salt. That means it's 0.15 gram of salt. So that is almost nothing. That's why we say not much, right? Because the quantity is not big. Actually, the quantity is very small, right? And in number 4, we have a big quantity. There is a lot of sugar in a can of soda, right? For example, here in the first part of the text, a can of Coke has approximately 39 grams of sugar. So that is a lot, okay? It's a lot of sugar, right? So remember that we can use these 4 expressions to talk about the quantity of something in food, okay?